Hey everyone, welcome to Forgot to Save, the weekly podcast where we explore the games that had some sort of significant impact on the gaming industry, or perhaps just on ourselves, that we, or at least one of us, never got around to playing. So the entire idea behind Forgot to Save is that we're going to be choosing a game that we're both going to be playing. And by both, I mean myself and Stone, but we'll get there. Let's table that for a sec. We're going to be choosing a game. Next week, Stone will choose a game, and then in the weeks following, we will actually be discussing those games that we've played and going into what we experienced, what we felt, did it really hold up, answering a whole bunch of questions, but just trying to get around to the games that we didn't when they were a lot more relevant. I'm BlueLizardJello. With me, I have Stone, a friend that I have had, my goodness gracious. Do we want to attempt to figure out how long it's been at this point?
Oh, I know how long it's been. I just don't want to put labels on it.
Oh, my comrade? That's still a label. Acquaintance. This person that I know, we have 2009, 10?
Yeah, 2010, probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
A long time. We have quite the history. And in that time, we've known each other, even though... So we met while working together years and years ago. But even after we both stopped working there, we've kept in touch quite frequently, even despite me moving all over the country.
Yeah.
But it's good to be back. So we did this before, back in 2016.
Yeah, we've proven our memory is a steel trap already.
We had a handful of episodes. They were really fun to make.
Sure.
It was fun to go back into those games. And it's funny sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it was just a particularly busy time for you, so it kind of fizzled out.
It did. A lot was going on. Like I said, moving across the country. I have since Stone and I have met, I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. I'm not from Pennsylvania. I'm from Massachusetts. Then I moved to Colorado, and only in the last couple of years, my family and I actually moved back to the Northeast, and now we're in Rhode Island. Lots of stuff have taken place since the last time we recorded this podcast. We've also had a couple of children, so that's a thing that took place.
The monopoly on children is all yours.
Stone didn't have any kids.
There's been 2 children.
If you average it out, Stone and I each have one child.
Yeah, the math adds up, yeah. I just never visited.
Oh, this is going nowhere fast. Suffice it to say, Stone and I, we've kept in touch. We know each other pretty well. Gaming has always kind of been the thing that really kind of centered us. Mm-hmm. That's not the word, centered us. Trying to get zen into this Forgot to Save podcast. Sure. It really grounds us, keeps me humble.
Sure, yeah. I've in fact have just been doing breathing exercises the whole time you've been introing.
Well, I've also been breathing, so don't think that you have the monopoly on that. Yeah. But why are we back, I guess, is the big question. We have talked on and off every now and then about it, but I've also been asked in various ways on some videos. And just recently, I do have a Patreon for BlueLizardJello, and I try to put out a monthly kind of solo podcast where I just talk to them, kind of answer their questions, give them an update. And I've actually gotten a couple questions recently. Any chance at bringing back Forgot to Save? Mm-hmm. And how do you tell someone who has waited 7 years for the return of a not even successful podcast? How do you tell them no? You don't.
Right. A few people look forward to a yes for that question.
Yeah. I don't think they wanted to know. They were probably expecting it.
Sure. The way I think of it is this. Everyone has a backlog, right? You don't have to go far in a conversation with anybody, whether it's reading, watching, like playing, for them to tell you about the huge backlog they have. And it's hard to find that friend whose recommendations you trust. In fact, I actually have a few people that are my anti-recommendations, where I know if they recommend me something, it's like, steer clear. And that's not a joke, actually. It's like, if they tell me, watch this movie, I'm like, okay, that's on the never watch list, for sure. But obviously we have been friends for a long time. I understand that you have a lot of blind spots as for like what I like in your choice of games and vice versa, and I think that works well. So oftentimes your recommendations are something I take seriously, and I will end up playing and enjoying those titles myself. So why not go through my backlog by forcing someone to make me go through it? And that's Forgot to Save.
So let me, two questions have just arisen for me. Number one, so I wanted to know, where do I fall on that? Am I like part of the cautiously optimistic? So if you hear a recommendation from me, it's a maybe I'll go into it.
If I had to assign a percent, I honestly think 85. No meme, like
wow,
100% straight with you. And you know what gives you a lot of points? You're one of the few people that has ever seen and enjoyed as much as I do both Party Down and Better Off Ted.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if that's what we're going for, that's the benchmark. We're right there.
Yeah, I know it's like, yeah, this person's taste is aligned with mine, but also different. Like
very different.
And the other thing is, like, if you recommend something to me, I can say like, oh, this is why, I call him Mike, but this is why Mike or Blue likes this thing. So I know, look out for this. Like, he likes it for this. This is the hook. Watch it for this aspect, you know? And I can say, like, oh, that doesn't interest me, but I know why he likes it. So that's why you have a high recommendation on that. And then, like, these other persons, like, people that I avoid, it's like, oh, it's just because you like The Big Bang Theory, you know? I've been burned too many times.
The whole universe was in it. No, that's, I have watched Big Bang.
Sure.
But that's also because we pretty much binged it when our second child was born, and it was all that was available in the room we were kind of holed up in during those early newborn stages. But anyway, that is not to disparage anyone who likes Big Bang Theory.
Right, yes. This is something I've tried and do not like, and they
Sure.
But it is to say that, yes, I take your recommendations very seriously.
Wow.
Also, I just have fun hanging out with you and talking. I feel like our sense of humor is the same, which is why I think our recommendations do well. And that's why I think this podcast does well. And if nobody listens to it, well, at least I had fun, right?
Well, we'll get there.
Sure.
We'll see if that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, now contractually, you have to say I'm at least 85 or higher.
Oh, I would say you're probably a little bit higher.
Sure.
And I think for you personally, I think that I have a lower bar of acceptance than you do.
I'm very picky. That much is evident. Yeah.
You're very picky, but you're articulate in your pickiness. It's not you're not contrarian. Mm-hmm. It's not hate for hate's sake. It's, if I didn't like this, I can give you very clear, understandable reasons.
Sure.
Why. And there's been several things, even just recently, that I know you absolutely did not care for, but I enjoyed. So it's not that I hold you to on a really high pedestal. Mm-hmm. Or pedal. Is it pedal stool?
I don't speak Spanish, yeah.
Okay. So we'll have to get a translator for that, but
sure.
We have. If you don't if you say something you didn't enjoy, I know that there's still a chance that I will, so I may give it a shot. But on the flip side, if you tell me that there is something that you did enjoy, I can go in with almost 100% certainty and know that I'm going to enjoy it, with maybe one exception, which is what we talked about right before we hit record, which is 30 Rock. But now it's probably my time for my fourth attempt watching that show.
Yeah, I don't think you'll dislike 30 Rock. I think you don't have the patience to get to when it gets good.
I think at this point time is so precious.
Sure. And the other thing is, like, the other 10% of my recommendations is Digimon, so you can just skip those.
Yeah. Although, if you're one of our patrons and you heard the unedited video 30 minutes leading up to this,
we set out, okay, this is a peek behind the curtain. You guys will have heard what we're referring to in the behind the scenes as kind of the episode 0, setting up the concept. We were recording this before that. We were, just retrying the format because it's been so many years. And when we were recording before this, there was a brief moment when we hit record where Digimon was mentioned in some way, it has now been half an hour, and we just started recording because I've been ranting about a anime franchise I watched in 1999.
And let's clarify that even further, though.
Sure.
Yes, 30 minutes was spent on Digimon. Folks, I've never seen Digimon.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played Digimon.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I really tried, I could name 3.
Do it. No, just kidding.
Agumon?
Okay, look at the big man.
Patapon?
Ooh, it all ends in Mon. Patamon is one of my game recommendations for you.
Patamon is not a Digimon?
No, I'm just kidding. Patapon is the game. Patamon is the Digimon, and both are great.
Okay, I can name 2.
Okay.
When push comes to shove.
Excellent. Honestly, more than I expected of you. Congratulations.
So, but I said that I had 2 questions. So I got the one out. The other one was, were we supposed to choose games that were present in our backlog?
No.
Okay.
No, it's just the idea that like this podcast kind of was spawned by the idea years and years and years ago of having a backlog, but absolutely not the case anymore.
Okay. Because, so I have a list, and we're going to get to the list here somewhat shortly. I've chosen 6 games, and this is in episode 0, the first episode. Hopefully you would have heard more into our selection process. But I chose 6 games, and I'm actually going to have Stone narrow down which one we're ultimately going to be playing here by asking him just a couple of questions. But out of those 6,
very excited, by the way.
only one of them is actually in my backlog.
Love it.
So this will be right. I'm actually looking right now.
You don't have to say yes or no, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling I know what one of your games is for me because I think you know I haven't played it.
How?
Yeah.
No, I can tell you, looking at my list, 100%. I would bet anything right now you could not name a single game on my list.
Okay. All right.
I really believe that. I think I could give you 5 chances.
Sure, that changes it. Because I would have thought, I'll just tell you, I would have thought 100% one of those would be the new God of War. I haven't played any of them since I came back. But the fact that you just said that makes me believe that's absolutely not on the list.
I will tell you this much. The most recent game that I have was made in 2013.
Okay. All
Yep.
right, brother.
Oh,
All
yes.
right. Now I'm
So
really
that
curious.
actually,
Yeah.
that leads me into a question before we get into that, because our advertisers require us to really pad the time out.
Sure, and we are really stacked with advertisers.
We are stacked on stack. Digimon being one of them. All of Digimon.
If we get a Digimon sponsorship, you have no idea how excited that would make me.
So just to kind of catch up, because it really has been a while since we've actually talked.
Yeah.
What are you playing right now?
Right now, I'm so excited to tell you, I've been playing the remake of Super Mario RPG and loving it. The perfect remake. I absolutely love it. I also just tried last weekend. My wife and I have these 2 friends that we like regularly play games with. It started around COVID, but just before COVID started, I believe it was pre-COVID. There was an update to Stardew Valley where they added a new type of farm, and we have 2 friends that one friend was really into it, and then he has a roommate. And we're like, let's start a new farm. And then COVID hit, and we sunk 500 hours into that farm. So now we like we'll play games every, a month maybe. But we just tried out what's it called? Void. Oh golly, 1 second. But it is a game where you are 4 people on a starship, and you are trying to go out and complete missions and explore the stars. Void Crew. It's a 4-person game where you are like just like astronauts on a starship. Everyone has their own kind of abilities. One person's like specializes in the weapons. You need a pilot, you need an engineer, and I'm usually the scavenger, so I will just in the middle of dogfights and something and stuff, just jump out of the ship and go collect scrap while people are shooting at each other. But it's an absolute blast. We just started that one. And other than that, I just picked up the Persona Tactics game, Persona 5 Tactica. I played the intro mission, and it was a really, really, really disappointing start, but I'm going to be getting back to it. I just haven't been able to pull myself away from Mario. Now, I am interested in what you are playing because one of the games I know that you're playing is one I would have recommended for this very podcast.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So here's the thing with me. Mm-hmm. So if somehow you're tuning into this and you don't know who I am, let's go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off. I'm kind of a big deal.
Oh.
I run a mega successful YouTube channel, which is where you're at right now, so you should know that. But no,
Sure.
It's weird. At being a YouTuber, a content creator, I've been doing this for several years. Still a very small channel, and that's okay. I kind of like that small community feel to it. It's hard to find the time, because I've already mentioned that is a precious commodity right now with 3 kids running around and just life in general. But in order for me to have free time, a whole lot of pieces need to fall into play.
Right.
What I do with that free time is, do I read? Do I catch up on some housework I need to do, or take care of the zoo that we have amassed over the years?
Right.
Or do I play a game? And if I'm going to play a game, am I going to record and or stream it? Which is almost always yes.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this really strange creator guilt, if you will, where if I play a game and I'm not doing it to share with an audience, it feels wrong.
I've heard this.
It's really challenging.
It seems almost like there's a bell curve to that guilt, though, where it's like, in the beginning, it's like, oh, nobody's really watching, so I'll play this on my own. And then you hit that guilt hard, which I think is where you're at. And then when you get big enough, it's like, I deserve to play something on my own.
Right. Once you get big enough and you don't, it's not even that you don't care about your audience, you actively dislike them.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I want to get there.
I'm working very diligently to get there.
know.
The problem is it's actually a lot of really cool people.
Well,
and then I
speak
talk
for
to
yourself.
them.
I'm just kidding.
I am. Why would I speak? Why would I speak for you?
Oh, being the bigger, like, this is your channel, so you just get like full access to veto any of my ideas. That's how it works. But the one I was, to bring it back to the game discussion, the one I thought I would suggest for this podcast until you began playing it was Mario Odyssey.
Okay. So I haven't, I'll be honest, and I'll tell you a funny story why I haven't been playing that recently. But recently, I actually played through all of, and I'm actually proud of this, Mario Wonder.
Yeah.
First off, incredible game.
Yeah, I love the beginning. I'm only on World 1, but yeah.
Just a beautiful, challenging 2D, like, I've heard some people describe it almost as a sequel to Super Mario World for the SNES.
I agree.
And I can see that in so many ways. And just absolutely love that game. In fact, I had to message Stone as soon as it happened. I 100%ed it.
I was so jealous. That was a huge feat, I believe.
It is, so you have to get, every level you can get a check mark on it. And to get that check mark, if there is an alternate exit, you need to get the alternate exit. You need to get any Wonder Seeds that are on it. You need to get the 3 purple coins. And you also need to get to the very top of the flagpole.
Yeah.
Which that in and of itself can be sometimes a bit of a puzzle.
Very frustrating when you miss it just underneath, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then you have to go through the whole thing again just for the attempt. But I did. In the first 2 or 3 weeks, I think, that we had it, I actually got that 100%.
Play online, you said.
Not a single time.
Yeah. So nobody was like giving you the answers to stuff.
Oh, no. No assistance whatsoever.
Genuinely huge accomplishment. I think that's like fantastic. That's why, I mean, for me, we would have talked about this in our episode 0, what games we like. But I'm a big Super Smash Brothers fan, and Sakurai, the director of those games, has a big design philosophy of like, low floor, high ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that Mario Wonder encapsulates that perfectly. Like, you could play alongside a child and they would have just as much fun as someone who is incredibly high skilled. And that's why, like, I would classify Mario Wonder as like a kid's game in that it is approachable for children and they can play the entire thing and have a blast. But the ceiling is massive. Getting 100% on that is incredibly difficult from what I've seen, and I'm again only in the middle of World 1. So
the final super secret level is some of the most tight platforming that I have ever played. Now, I'm not talking like Super Meat Boy and Boshi and all that, but it felt incredible to knock that off.
A worthwhile entry into like the main serious Mario games, and the style is just unbeatable. Like if you pause at any moment, every single frame of animation could be like in the instruction booklet for Mario World. You know, it's like just brimming with character. It's
it really is,
an absolute blast. And I'm happy that we have more games like that coming out now. I believe there's a lot of high quality games this year. We've been kind of spoiled. But we also, the point of this podcast is kind of to take a look at how we got there. Like look at games that brought us to that point.
That is very, very true. Now, one thing that I have to mention, just because you brought it up, we have 2023 will go down as one of the biggest and best years for game releases in quite a long time.
Yeah.
Very few years could top this one. With that being said, which is a phrase I absolutely despise, but that being said, anyone who is even remotely plugged into industry news knows that this is probably going to go down as the very worst year to be an employee in the industry.
Sure. Yeah.
Layoffs and studio closures are just a daily occurrence right now.
And it's also... Oh, sorry.
No, please.
It's a little devastating. I'm very political, so obviously I will try to veer away from that. But it's the tech space, and the tech space is also inherently reactive. So a lot of these layoffs are just because somebody else big did layoffs, you know? There's plenty of work out there for developers, but, you know, trim the fat. You can get more profit out of it. It's really sad. It's kind of devastating, and it hasn't happened yet at the time of recording, but, like, I don't plan on watching the Game Awards. It just feels like we're just kind of like celebrating on everyone's sadness. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like the Olympics when they like build a terrible structure that kills a bunch of people, and then it's like, yay, gold medals.
Yeah, you're right. It up until now, well, I mean, it's always been a tumultuous industry, but this year, obviously, more than ever. But it feels like we're celebrating a product now.
Of course.
And not the people. And obviously there's always been a bit of that, but now but what I'm kind of thinking of selfishly, I'll be honest, I'm being selfish right now, is what is the landscape going to look like in, 2, 3, 4 years? The drought we're going to experience in gaming content because of the massive reduction in staff that these studios are facing.
I think yes and no. I think we're still in a little bit of the wake of recovering from projects that were started during COVID or around that time. I think the reason this year is so great is only because we are getting a huge mashup of what would have been released over the past 3 years. That's my opinion. I don't have any granted research to back that up, but it feels that way. And I feel like we're still not seeing the end of that wave. I think like evidence is like GTA 6 is just starting to be shown. I feel like even though Rockstar is like infamous for dragging out 5, we would have seen it even before that had there not been a pandemic that really influenced the industry as a whole. But as far as layoffs we'll see now, I don't know if that's the case. I think indie development every year is more approachable than it's ever been. I know there was an issue with Unity recently trying to take more royalties and the huge backlash, but Unreal is a more and more approachable engine now, even for small-time developers. That is a skill that transfers regardless of studio. There are very few studios, I believe, that are using in-house engines that they're creating from scratch for, multiple titles, because Unreal is such like an accessible and easy to use. It's the common language almost,
Yeah.
So,
well, and then one thing that actually came out of the Unity debacle, just to bring that up, and I don't know if it's Godot. I assume it's Godot.
Yeah,
not
I've always been
Godot,
calling it
right?
Godot. Yeah.
Okay. So open source engine, and they have actually received a huge, massive influxes of capital to actually build out their engine even more and remain open source. So, I mean, I guess silver lining just from that one particular incident.
Yeah. I mean, it stinks, but I feel like a lot of the people being laid off have transferable skills to other developers, and I think we will see new developers pop up. And I don't know why people didn't learn this circa 2014 that, like, indies sell. People like indies.
Yes.
I just told you that I put 500 hours in a Stardew Valley, you know? That's a huge... And we saw... the reason I specifically mentioned 2014 is, like, that's when PS4 and Xbox One were coming out, and the whole push at the beginning was, like, we're supporting indie. Like, Square Enix was buying... they were publishing for a lot of indie developers and stuff. So it's like, people are getting laid off, yes, but I think their skills are transferable, and I think a lot of people are going to use this as an opportunity to maybe beef up their own portfolio and put out a lot of, like, fun, new, innovative indie titles, and I really hope that they are able to get back on their feet, make something interesting, and hopefully it's a good opportunity to turn around and make something great. But I feel like as a result of these layoffs, we're going to see maybe a little new indie boon in the next few years.
Okay.
And then the cycle will repeat. We're going to be back in 2014. You know, Nintendo and Xbox and PlayStation are going to beef up their indie titles. Then they're going to acquire those studios like they did with the studio that makes Hades.
Yes.
Supermassive, I want to say. Or no, those are the guys that make Until Dawn.
No, that's... Is that Supermassive?
You know what? Ignore that I said that.
Hold on, I have a computer. We can do this right now.
Sure.
Oh, you're right. Supermassive, The Quarry, Dark Pictures. Yeah.
But I think, you know, unfortunately, this cycle is going to continue, and I feel like the layoffs and what we're seeing right now is just a response to them being in the technology sector and the volatility of how technology sectors are funded and how they're judged by their stock prices. And again, I'm not trying to get into politics, but I think we're starting a cycle, and hopefully
let's get into politics. Who are you voting for in 2024?
Listening. Who cares about Mario Wonder? Let's talk about the elections.
Oh my word! Super Giant, by the way. I can see why you thought it was Supermassive. It's literally Super Giant.
And I mean, Super Giant, they hit on the Xbox Live Arcade, which I feel like was the inception of popularizing indie games, because even at that time of the Xbox 360, PC gaming was nowhere near what it is today as far as in the general audience's grasp. You know what I mean?
I did not know that they made Bastion.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the Xbox Live Arcade, they hit with Bastion. Then I believe it was Transistor. Pyre. No.
Yeah. But no, you're right, Pyre. I don't see anything on their timeline.
Yeah.
Bastion, Transistor, Pyre, and Hades.
Yep. And Hades, they were even... Whoa, that was weird stutter. But they were testing early access, too. And then you saw how successful that was.
Yes.
But I think it's just they've always been a company that has gotten by on the quality of their games, and I wish every indie company was given that opportunity, but they went on to be considered a very valuable asset, and I think people are looking to acquire them. But that's if there's going to be a cycle breaking in the industry, I think it's what I just kind of briefly mentioned, which is acquisitions. Xbox trying to swallow everyone up. Like I said, it's the tech industry, so it's reactive. So how long until we see that trend continue with other major publishers and manufacturers of consoles? I don't know, but that's a sad thing to talk about. I am actually genuinely excited to hear these games. So unless you got anything else, I'm ready to get into it.
No, let's get into it. Right. So here's what I did. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now Stone has already begun. In the next episode, next week, Stone is going to be going over his games, right? So I think I've already laid that out. This week, we're choosing my game. Sure. Next week, we're going to choose Stone's. And then in the 2 weeks following that, we'll actually play and discuss those games. Stone most likely has an incredibly elaborate and well-researched document regarding his games. I have a notepad.
Sure.
And I don't mean it's even something I wrote. I mean, I literally opened up Notepad on my PC. It's called Untitled because it hasn't even been saved. If I shut my computer off, I lose this. And I simply have it broken down by decades. And in 3 different decades, I chose 2 games. And how did I choose those games? I did a very deep dive by literally Googling best games of this particular decade.
Okay.
Now, I didn't, however, simply look at that list and say, oh, that is a really good game, or I've heard of that game. I went through and I tried to, because some of these lists had 300 games, and I would scan the list, and number one, I wanted to put games that I haven't played. Maybe you have. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm willing to bet you've played probably half of these games, if not more. Do you just have
Ocarina of Time on there?
It's just Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
Yeah, every re-release counts as a new decade. So,
I'm sure you've played some of these, but I went through and I thought, which of these games are kind of not like the others? I didn't want to choose the massively successful games like Halo. Obviously, could have been one of those games, right?
Oh, one of my favorites.
But I wanted to pick games that at least slightly smaller in some respects, maybe not in every respect, but that's kind of the rhyme or reason why I chose some of these. Some of these surprised me, and some of them made it into my list because I just have always wanted to play them.
Yeah, you have Seaman from the Dreamcast, narrated by Leonard Nimoy. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah. Just obscure, but still highly rated.
Yep. No, please continue. I'll say to all of them.
I also appreciate that you are really embodying the spirit of Forgot to Save with your Untitled Word doc.
Literally forgot to save my Word doc. Sorry, not even Word doc, my Notepad doc.
Sorry. Yeah, your Notepad. Why don't you do a quick Control S for me? Save Untitled.txt right on the desktop along 40 other icons you've never clicked on.
So, Stone, I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
The first question is going to be very simply this. Now, I mentioned this earlier, I didn't choose any game newer than 2013, but I would have allowed any game up until 2019. Okay. I obviously didn't do the 2020s, okay? We're only 3 years, almost 4 years into this decade, but I wanted to do the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s.
Sure.
So, my question for you, Stone, right off the bat is, would you like a game from the 90s, the 2000s, or the 2010s?
I have to say that I have a particular affinity to the GameCube PS2 era.
Okay.
Dreamcast, sorry, don't want to leave.
Okay.
Actually, my Dreamcast is one of my favorite consoles. I only started playing it very recently. But I want to go with the 2000s. I want to see what you have in store for me in the 2000s.
No. Okay. You chose wrong. You chose incorrectly. Because out of all of these, I am most afraid of these 2 games.
Okay, I would like to have a lifeline on standby.
No, this is going to be fun. All right, so we're going to go with the 2000s.
They're just it's just different Zelda games. It's Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are the 2.
So, Stone, in the 2000s,
sure,
I chose 2 different games.
Yeah.
One game came out in 2000, one came out in 2003. Both of them were available on the PlayStation 2.
Okay.
From my little bit of research, only one of them, however, was on the Xbox. The other one was only on Windows and PS2. So my next question for you...
What a range. Windows and PS2.
Yeah, how about that? Right? So, Stone, in the 2000s, would you rather play a sci-fi game set in a corporate dystopia full of conspiracies, or would you rather play as a patent lawyer traveling to the Congo for patent reasons.
Whoa. I don't even know what that is. I have a feeling... Sorry, give me the first one again.
Yeah, so this game, which is from 2000, available on the PlayStation 2 and Windows and Mac, apparently. It's a sci-fi game set in a corporate dystopia full of conspiracies.
I don't want to take the wind out of the sails by guessing, so don't tell me if I'm yes or right. This first one feels like an early Fallout, like an isometric Fallout. I don't know if they ever came out on PS2, but it feels like, yeah, I can already see the box art in my head. Now, the second one, I am incredibly intrigued. A patent lawyer going to... Is this a Dreamcast game? This feels not... Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm looking it up, but according to my Google Foo, Windows, PS2, and Xbox back in 2003.
Well, the Dreamcast ran Windows CE, so technically... yeah, because to me, when you say that, I just instantly picture the Dreamcast era of making everything a clone of Resident Evil and making it some kind of weird horror in a contrived way to get people there. But I cannot resist the call of this patent lawyer, or was it a patent clerk? Or is this Albert Einstein?
You're a patent lawyer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go for it. I want to make some patents.
Okay. Stone, you have chosen none other than Broken Sword, the Sleeping Dragon.
I am unfamiliar with this game. Let me see if I know the box art. Sorry, go ahead.
I definitely don't. And because looking at it, it is some terrible box art. When I was searching...
Wow, this is terrible box art.
It's really not good. I mean, like, that looks like it honestly should be starring, like, John Travolta and maybe, like, James Spader or something.
Yeah, it looks like an early AI tried to generate Scarlett Johansson and Elon Musk, and there's a silhouette of someone that was trying to make a Mummy ripoff.
When I saw this, and I saw that really brief description that you actually play as a patent lawyer, okay, just like Stone, interest kind of piqued, but I started to read about it, and it actually sounds rather intriguing. Now, it's the third game in the Broken Sword series.
Sure.
Most of them are actually available on Steam. I'm actually looking at the bundle right now.
Steam page, yeah.
Are you? Yeah, Broken Sword 2, the third one. Oh, maybe the third was the most recent. I thought there was others. I think there are more.
I will tell you that I feel as though I've still nailed it with the description of a Resident Evil clone that the Dreamcast was pushing out, like the D series, and I don't know. I'm looking at the little Stinger video on Steam, and I'm very much seeing that era. I'm shocked this never released on Dreamcast. Well, probably because it's 2003.
But the reason that it really kind of piqued my interest is that it's kind of a take on a Tomb Raider-esque type scenario where the game involves going to real places, looking for real artifacts, and uncovering real cultural lore and significance, but doing it from the backdrop of you're a patent lawyer. And in this one, you are traveling to the Congo because there's a scientist who claims he has an invention that will generate limitless energy, and he wants a patent on its stat.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this was on several lists. When I looked up the best games of the 2000s, this was on most of those lists, which was surprising to me because out of all the other games that I had on my list, and I'll talk about those here freely in a second, I had heard of every single one. This is the only one that I thought, I don't even recognize the title.
Yeah.
And yet several journalists have said that this was worth playing. And I never did.
Yeah, this was wholly unexpected.
Yeah, it sure was. Now, the good news is, we're both on the Steam page. The forgot to save funds, the pockets are deep. So I can help foot the bill for the Sleeping Dragon, which is $5.99 on Steam currently.
Yeah, no object for me.
If anyone wants to play along at home, Broken Sword 3, the Sleeping Dragon is what it is. this will be a really interesting take. I want to see how it holds up.
Yeah.
I want to see what did it potentially introduce back in 2003 that got people buzzing. And I also want to see if I made a mistake.
Sure, that is very likely a possibility. I am so interested in this. I had never even heard of this title before. They made no mistake just slapping just the biggest THQ logo on it. Very big publishers of the time, so they were really taking wide swings. I am looking at these release windows. I don't even know what I want to play this on, actually. I would have the ability, a little peek behind the curtain, I have almost all of my consoles modded, so I can play, I can emulate on the actual hardware itself. I don't know what I would want to give this a shot on. Maybe I'll try it on Xbox.
I'll probably try on Steam.
Yeah.
Just because I don't have access to the same devices that you do.
Sure.
Just in case you're curious, How Long to Beat, a website I frequent when choosing a new game, says that the main story takes roughly about 10 hours.
Wow. A little bit longer than I expected.
Longer than I expected, too. Now, so Broken Sword, The Sleeping Dragon, that's what we're going to be playing. That's what we're going to be discussing. So, of course, if you're listening and you've played it, or any of the other Broken Swords, which I believe this was their first 3D entry. Before this, it was actually just all two-dimensional.
Okay. Probably point and click, I would guess.
That's what it seems like. Although, just looking at the little videos here, it does look like Tomb Raider, Uncharted, that type of adventure atmosphere they're going for. But would you like to hear the other games?
Was I right about there being a Fallout?
You were not.
Oh, wow. What was it?
Yeah, I really thought you would have gotten Deus Ex.
Oh, of course. I've never
The
played
OG.
that. Yeah.
Nor have I. Now we might have to put some of these like on the eventually, we'll get to this one list.
Sure.
Is it okay if we recycle unchosen games?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll forget.
All right.
So I don't have exactly a steel trap going on.
So in the 2000s, I had Deus Ex, and I had, of course, Broken Sword. In the 90s, I had Curse of Monkey Island.
By the way, two games I would have never expected to be the two representation of the 2000s. Like a crazy two games to choose. Sure,
and again, there were definitely some other games that would have been more definitive for that era, right?
Right. Yeah. Monkey Island, big classic. Another one I've never played. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have it. I wasn't sure. Curse of Monkey Island, not the first, but apparently widely regarded as one of their best entries. I haven't played it either. This one, Metal Gear Solid.
Ooh, okay.
Metal Gear Solid. I've never played. I've barely touched any Metal Gear. I think my first foray was in Snake Eater.
Sure, that's the Metal Gear Solid, right? I played a lot of Phantom Pain.
3?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
I played a lot of Phantom Pain. What I will also say is I, at one point, years and years and years ago, tried to play Metal Gear Solid for the first time, and boy, are those controls rough on the original PlayStation.
Ooh, okay.
It's still something I wanted to play. It seems like such a beast of a series to get into if you've never done it before. I thought the Phantom Pain, though, was a nice entry point, but I've always wanted to go back.
I hope we get an older game at one point like Metal Gear Solid or like the original Resident Evil, not one of the remakes, but the original, strictly because at some point I want to have a conversation about controls and the evolution of controls, not controllers, but just actual how do you manipulate inside of the game environment.
Sure.
Because I've had an interesting conversation with someone, and we can get into this when that topic comes around, but his point was they actually used these poor tank-like controls in many games as an element to increase difficulty and to maybe even increase tension because you weren't as nimble. And I wasn't sure, and I'm still not sure that I agree with that take, but it'll be curious to flesh out.
I've heard interviews with, I believe it was the director of the original Resident Evil, and that was intentional, as was
Oh,
constantly changing the camera angle so that it increased the tension when you were like running through the mansion.
interesting.
But also, it gives you like a fixed point that you could optimize your game for, the number of objects on screen, how everything
Fair.
will appear. So that was also why like Final Fantasy VII did that, for example.
Huh.
But
Well,
yes, I've heard as much, and I think that's an interesting conversation. We might have it with this game though, because
We
I do
might.
see this as it looks like a game that was kind of in the fallout of the popularity of Biohazard / Resident Evil.
Yep.
But what were the 2010s?
In 2010, now these, one of them I could see maybe you've played, and in the 2010s, this is the only game on the list that I actually have in my backlog. The first one, which is not in my backlog, but Papers, Please.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Did you ever try that out?
No, huge
Okay.
indie title though. It did.
Yes.
It did blow up on Steam when it came out.
Yes, I remember Many a True Nerd. I watched his video on it, and essentially you play as like an immigration officer, and people will come through and have to present papers, and you have to check it to make sure it is that person. They have all their signatures, all the ducks are in a row. Otherwise, you might let the wrong person in. And then apparently there's a whole subplot about overthrowing the government, which is always fun.
I think that's a natural evolution. Yeah.
Right, yeah. The next one, the only one in my Steam library right now, Little Inferno.
Little Inferno. Oh,
Little
that's the horror
Inferno.
game?
Pseudo horror where the entire thing just takes place in front of a fireplace.
Oh.
And what you do, there's definitely horror elements to it, but the entire game, and I remember the Yogscast actually playing this, and it's what where I got my taste for it. It's very anti-commercialism, and you have a catalog, and you
trying
purchase.
to not get me to talk about politics in this.
I think we can
Papers,
talk about.
Please, and Little Inferno.
Wow, I didn't notice that. Yeah, I got sued. Then again, Metal Gear Solid is obviously going to be a hot topic.
I even cut Disco Elysium from my recommendation list
Wow.
because I was worried it would get too political.
No, there's no such thing. Everyone loves a good political discussion, especially on a family-friendly gaming channel such as this one.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Sorry, it's anti-commercial. Yeah.
So you have a catalog, and you order from the catalog. The things show up right away, and then what you do is you put these items, these toys, these objects, you put them in the fireplace, and you light them on fire.
Oh.
That is the entire game. And yet there's a weird depth and complexity to it because you have challenges where you need to combine certain objects that'll burn together to check a whole lot of boxes. And the things started to get more elaborate. And there's a little backstory in it. I've always wanted to play it. And it's been sitting in my backlog for probably at this point 11 years.
Wow. Okay. Well,
So
we'll have to recycle it in your next choice of games.
Yeah. That one, interestingly enough, was the only one on my list that was also available on the Wii U.
Whoa.
Yeah. How about that?
Wow. This, I have to say, is and I mean this in a positive way, a perplexing list. If I would not choose any of these as candidates to represent these particular eras. So much so that I even thought the other one was a Fallout game.
Yes.
But Deus Ex, I think, still reaches the heights of a Fallout, well, to a lesser extent, but as far as impact. But wow, Broken Sword.
Broken Sword 3.
Wasn't even
Get
on
ready.
my radar. Didn't know it existed.
Well, I can only hope that if nothing else, it spurns an interesting conversation.
Sure.
And I'm sure it will.
Because I think, one thing we want to do is also kind of see how the industry evolved through playing these things, these different titles. And even if this was, and again, that was just my like knee-jerk reaction, but like some kind of clone that evolved from the wave of popularity that Resident Evil created, I think it's still interesting to analyze how people try to tweak that. Or if this, and again, you said that it comes from a series, it seems as though just briefly looking at these that it probably came from point and click, because it seems a kind of adventure title like that. To see that kind of evolution into 3D, I think is also a very interesting potential topic. So you have my attention. That much.
Well,
is for sure.
Very cool. So the next time will be Stone's turn to run me through the paces and choose a game. And then after that, we'll finally get to show these off and to talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, I have 3 titles chosen, all of which I'm particularly excited about. I believe these are all ones I have played. Yes, all 3 of them are games I've played, and they are all drastically different in release date, tone, and I don't know. They're so opposite each other on the spectrum, but they are nowhere near as obscure as your list. They are right out there in the open.
I want to know so badly, and it kills me knowing I have to wait a week.
Well, you may not have to wait a week, but our listeners do.
Right.
And listen, we're not the only ones choosing games here. If you guys have games that you are particularly interested in playing alongside us, or have a particularly large influence in your lives or the gaming industry as a whole, then please suggest them in the comments. We are more than willing to accept yours and throw them into the rotations of games we're going to be guessing. And in fact, it might be a little fun maybe in the future to have 2 or 3 games that we present ourselves and one from the audience for each of us to play. I think it's going to be a blast to do this alongside you guys. That said, we are recording this one early, so we probably won't get to your suggestions until next month.
Yes.
But I am looking forward to our next time discussing this game, which will be, again, 2 weeks from now. Next week, as you said, will be me presenting my games. And the following week will be our kind of finale of this, for lack of a better term. Do you think you will be able to beat this? Because 10 hours is a big investment, but also seems extremely doable to me.
It does seem doable. I think I'll be able to do it unless it's just something I don't want to.
Sure.
If I get into it and it's just I'm 3 hours in and apparently patent lawyer is not for me, I'll talk about that experience.
Sure. If there's no actual patent approval mini games, like where I had to research whether or not this hinge exists in other existing patents, and I'm just not interested. I want to really practice the law. So if you didn't bring that to me, then I'm sorry. I'm just not going to play through it.
And I know that this is a conversation we're going to have when we actually play the game, but I already have one big major question for the creators, and that is, in Tomb Raider, you are a treasure hunter. In Uncharted, you are also a treasure hunter looking for fame and glory. It makes sense why they're traveling the world looking for these long-lost artifacts. How did they settle on, who else travels the world?
Sure, patent lawyers.
Patent lawyers.
Typically operate outside of their country, yeah. That happens often.
And the Congo, of all places.
Right. Yeah,
it's gonna be something.
Maybe that will be answered for us, but I am nothing if not insanely curious about this entire game's existence, let alone the conversation we're going to have after the fact. Wow.
I will be purchasing and installing tonight, and I will start a new untitled notepad to make sure I keep my thoughts organized.
Whoa. We are spoiled, aren't we?
Oh, I would not have guessed that one was going to be the chosen one. That is fun.
I would have never guessed that game existed. The chosen one. I would not have guessed that game was made. A team of people had to do this. So, yeah. Wow. I'm so excited. There's no other way to put it. Cool.
On that note, I think that's about going to do it for this somewhat inaugural episode. Not
Sure.
really, but
for us, we have been re-inaugurated.
Yes. Goodness gracious. Well, folks, this has been Forgot to Save, our weekly podcast where we play games like broken sword. And maybe games apart from that weird sub patent lawyer genre in the near future. But I don't really have anything else to say. I gotta go dive into it.
Sure. Thank you guys, everyone, for listening. Please, 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 we look forward to hearing your suggestions, and give the game a try alongside us, and let's have a conversation in 2 weeks about it. I look forward to hearing not only Blue's thoughts, but your thoughts as well. And I appreciate you guys sticking with us and trying out our relaunch of Forgot to Save.
And next week, I can't wait to hear about your games. Do we want to end with something really corny like, hey, and don't forget to save? Ba-da-ba.
I feel like it would mean nothing knowing that you have an unsaved, untitled text document on your desktop right now. So I will just say, as a reminder to you, please hit Control S.
Do you know how many good ideas I've lost because of this practice of mine?
I can only assume. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys next week.
We'll talk to you next time. Take care.